Ambassador Ross, let's go to you now. I mean, what is your reaction to Prime Minister Netanyahu canceling the Israeli delegation visit to Washington? I mean, was Netanyahu viewing this meeting with honest intent, or was he always looking for a way out?
No, I don't think he was looking for a way out, but I think he felt he was going to respond to our abstaining, which allowed a Security Council resolution to be adopted. I think he, given his politics, felt the need to demonstrate that he wouldn't simply acquiesce in something like that. When I say given his politics, the right wing of his coalition was bound to react if he sent the team anyway. So this was his political response to that. Now, in the end, the irony is, as you were just reporting, you have the defense minister here. The defense minister has a number of his key assistants with him. Obviously, the defense minister, he meets the national security advisor, he's meeting the secretary of state, he's meeting the secretary of defense. It is inconceivable that he won't have a discussion with them on how they're thinking about, how Israel's thinking about Rafah. It's inconceivable that he wouldn't say, oh, let's hear what are the ideas you have. I think there's also an impulse on his part to explain that the plans the Israelis are developing are not an overall onslaught, and they do involve the evacuation of Palestinians, and they do involve, I think, a more targeted approach. So it may be that the actual gap between the two sides and what happens in Rafah is not as great as everybody thinks. At least you'll have an opportunity with Gallant here to have that kind of a discussion. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, sending an Israeli team here is not a favor the Israelis are doing to us. It is profoundly in Israel's interest, profoundly in Prime Minister Netanyahu's interest in the end, to ensure that if you're going to militarily defeat the 4 Hamas battalions in Rafah, you need to do that in a way that is in agreement with the United States, and I would say secondarily in agreement with Egypt as well.
Mm-hmm. We know, though, that President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu have a complicated relationship, to put it gently. Does this put even more strain on that relationship?
I do think probably it's added to the problems in the relationship. I don't think it fundamentally changes the way President Biden approaches Israel, but I think it clearly raises more issues and questions in terms of how he views Prime Minister Netanyahu. Look, there's no doubt that Prime Minister Netanyahu is operating in a circumstance where he feels a lot of pressure from parts of his government. One of the members of that government today withdrew. Gideon Sa'ar has left the government today. He's caught in the middle of a need to come up with new legislation on the whole question of whether the ultra-Orthodox, ultra-religious Orthodox will be drafted into the military or not. That has to be done before the end of this week. So he's got a lot of different balls he's juggling and a lot of different political pressures right now. And I suspect that his decision to withdraw the delegation is driven as much by the politics of his government right now, and his need to show that he simply wasn't acquiescing in an American decision to allow a Security Council resolution to be adopted. It is interesting, I might just add, the language in this resolution was tied to a ceasefire for Ramadan, not an open-ended one. Yeah. And the language in the resolution was also very explicitly tied as well to the unconditional release of the hostages. So that I'm not surprised that the administration was a little perplexed by the Prime Minister's response. But I have to say, I'm also not surprised, given the way the UN is seen generally in Israel. You can get any resolution in the UN that is anti-Israeli adopted very easily. And so there's a kind of neuralgic view of the UN. So I'm not surprised that there was also this response there.
Expand on that a little bit, because Israeli officials had said before the chances of a ceasefire were around 50-50. Is there a chance that the UN kind of pushing this could backfire and force Netanyahu to take a stronger stance?
It is ironic. I mean, it's in the end, he is dealing with the members of his war cabinet who are anxious to get such a deal for a lot of different reasons, starting with getting 40 hostages. Not all of them, but getting 40 out is an imperative. I don't think the UN was in any way going to help, but it's clear that the fact that this has been adopted, it certainly creates a different political frame in which Prime Minister Netanyahu is operating. if in fact the negotiations bear fruit, that's not going to stop this from happening. If Hamas were to respond to the compromise proposal that the U.S. made and the Israelis accepted, you're going to have a deal. My own guess, knowing and understanding the way Hamas operates, I don't think they will simply accept the compromise. They'll try to negotiate further. They'll try to get more numbers. But the idea there's a 50-50 prospect suggests that you're in a negotiation now where there's a give and take, and that's certainly better than the alternative.
Okay, Dennis Ross, excellent analysis as always, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.